Hello, and welcome to this bonus edition of the Adrienne Ross Show on the BMG Network. That is the bmgnetwork.com. Or, of course, you may be listening on a major podcast platform. Thank you for tuning in. Why am I doing a bonus episode? I want to highlight some comments I recently heard by none other than Dr. Anthony Fauci. Dr. Anthony Fauci, I'm sure you've heard of him, but I'm not sure if you've heard these comments or what you think about them. So let's listen to what he recently said, and then let's talk about it.
Anthony Fauci has some thoughts about stuff.
Well, one of the things that to me was most difficult to accept is that we put together a good plan for how we were going to try and dampen down the spread of infection early on, thinking that that was accepted by everybody. And then the next day, the president saying, free Michigan, free Virginia. I didn't quite understand what the purpose of that was, except to put this misplaced perception about people's individual right to make a decision that supersedes the societal safety.
Okay, so now you've heard Fauci's remarks. Do you find them as troubling as I do? Because you should. If you don't find what he said problematic, we've got a bigger problem than you realize. Or maybe you don't think we have a problem at all, because what he says sounds like it's the right thing. Let's talk about it. He talks about how it's difficult to accept, okay? It's difficult to accept this, what he called misplaced perception about an individual right to make a decision that supersedes societal safety. And I'll get back to that, because he first said that he thought that they had some plan as it pertains, of course, to this virus. He thought that it was a plan that was accepted by everybody. And then he was shocked because then President Trump came out with free Michigan, free Virginia, and he just doesn't understand that. Again, because he doesn't understand, or he cannot accept this misplaced, and I'm quoting him, misplaced perception about an individual right to make a decision that supersedes societal safety. So what is he saying? He's saying that we should not have a right to make an individual decision that somehow counters this greater good, this societal safety. I'm telling you that his mindset, his remarks, the fact that he thinks that way, dangerous. I'm still trying to figure out, number one, who is he to tell us what our rights should and should not be, or that we're supposed to sacrifice our rights, or we don't have rights, that in the powers that be, in their mind is counter to the societal good, the greater good. Who gets to decide the greater good? First of all, who is he? He's not an elected official, but even an elected official, I mean, who are you to decide that I should somehow cast aside my right as an American for some greater good? Greater good as defined by who? Who gets to decide the greater good? Fauci? Biden? Nancy Pelosi? These companies, pharmaceutical companies? Bill Gates? George Soros? I mean, who gets to decide? And it blows my mind that anybody who's here in America, especially somebody who has a voice like he has, as troubling as his voice is, you actually have the nerve to open your mouth and you actually think that people are supposed to forfeit their individual right. Listen, he's confused by that. He said so. So maybe he doesn't understand where we live. I'm starting to think that people wake up every morning and they're not sure what country they're living in. I'm sure what he's saying is fine in some other places where they don't have that right. But this is America. America wasn't founded on the idea that somebody like a Fauci can tell you where you lay down your individual right not to get jabbed with something for somewhat greater good. And that sounds good to some people. That's how they get people, because they make those of you and those of us who believe in liberty and freedom. They try to cast you in a horrible light. You don't care about the greater good. You know what? It's not my responsibility to get a vaccine so that you feel safe. It's not even my responsibility to get the vaccine so that you are safe. And you might say, well, that's not a very Christian thing. Listen, the government has no place in doing that. Now, if I, as a Christian, choose to say, you know what, I'm going to wear this mask because somehow they say it's for the greater good. I'm going to get this vaccine because it's for the greater good. And you hear people saying that. Now, if I somehow, as a Christian, feel that that's my responsibility, which, by the way, I do not, but if I did, that's one thing. If I, as an individual Christian or not, chose to do that, that's one thing. But for the government to mandate and dictate that I've got to put something in my body that has no long-term results or anything like that, and even if it did, it's still for me to decide. So I'm not. I don't get with the guilt trip stuff. You can't get me with that. As some people, I'm doing this for us, for a community, for this. We're not living on some. Listen, we're free Americans. We haven't taken a vow to get jabbed up with stuff and do stuff and lay down our rights so that other people can feel okay. And again, if that's what you want to do, then that's your right. But for this guy who's got this on the national, international stage, really, to say something like that is completely demeaning to the very fabric of who we are as Americans, and it's delusional. And then again, who gets to decide what the greater good is? This is the scary part. When these voices, when these people think that they get to decide that, we end up with something really, really scary. Because it starts here, and then it becomes something absolutely unrecognizable for a free people. So now the people who are deciding the greater good, they do some of what we already see. Oh, well, this population is getting, it's off the hook. It's getting out of control. We for the greater good of all, let's do population control. Let's start with those who have more of a chance to contribute better to society, because it's for the greater good. It's a sacrifice for the greater good. And if you think that could not happen, you better wake up, because I'm sure just a few months ago, you didn't think you could lose your job for not getting jabbed with something that may have adverse reactions and that may kill you. Now, obviously, people are getting the jab and they're fine. But there are many who aren't. So the greater good says, let's do X, Y, and Z. And that might not even line. That's just that's just crazy. But it may not even be good at all. So who decides? It may not be good for me. It may not be good for my family. So then we've got what we're seeing now. With 90%, about 90% of Down syndrome pregnancies are terminated. And they encourage people to abort because that's for the what? For the greater good? For the whose greater good? Whose greater good? And who decides that? And there are people who are there are people who decide those things and recommend those things. So is that what we're going to do too? Lay down our individual freedoms and rights? Because he thought that everybody agreed that we're going to do this for societal safety. Scary. Absolutely. And then, you know what? The church thing, we got these different churches. We need to shut down churches because, you got this denomination here, you got this denomination. And, this church thing, it kind of causes division. So you know what? We're going to shut that thing down because it's for the greater societal safety, our mental safety, our emotional safety, even our physical safety with what, we might break out in a fight over faith or something, So for the good of all mankind, let's submit to those who know better. See, it starts with sounding like something so sweet. It's all about the greater good. And the motive is not the greater good. And not only that, they don't even know what the greater good is. They're making it up as they go along based on their own agendas. But yet, if you don't think we can end up with something absolutely unrecognizable as a nation, all you had to do was listen to what he said. He's baffled. This guy, he's a doctor. He should be smart. And yet, as quote unquote smart as he is, he doesn't seem to understand that we do have an individual right in this country to make decisions for ourselves. If you don't like it, here's my thing. You don't have to like it. Maybe you do think that people should be coerced and forced and browbeaten and, and all that strong-armed into doing what you think should be done, such as with this virus. Maybe you do. Maybe you think that, or with any other thing, not just the virus. And if that's how you feel, that's okay. Just go somewhere else because you're in the wrong country. We don't flow like that here. We weren't founded for that. Okay? Americans didn't sign up for that. Our founders didn't sign up for that. Actually, quite the opposite. So I am imploring us to be mindful. Don't be duped. Why do people think, there are people I'm sure who applauded with what he said. You see the commercials, we're all in this together. And so people are applauding when he says that. And then if you resist, like he pointed out something that Trump said, then if you resist, then you're the bad guy because you don't care about your fellow man. Don't let them play you. They're duping you with that nonsense while they try to do what Barack Obama has said he wanted to do when he was running, and that was to fundamentally transform America. That's the plan. And if we're not careful, that's what's going to happen. And all you got to do is look at people like Fauci, who's, again, not an elected official. And even if he were an elected official, who is he to tell us that we have to submit to what he thinks is the greater good? No. Fauci and his ilk. This is the United States of America. Welcome. Okay? And we are not willing to lay down individual rights so that the societal safety will supersede that. Because that's what he said. That there is a misplaced perception that our thinking that we have individual rights to make a decision that supersedes societal safety is a misplaced perception. No, your perception is misplaced, Dr. Fauci. Yours. But Americans, be mindful and be careful. Because these folks and their ilk, they want to take over. They want to take over. And we can't let that happen. So we need to wake up. Again, this is Adrian with the Adrian Ross Show. And you are listening to a bonus episode. And I will catch you on the next episode. God bless you abundantly. The Adrian Ross Show was produced and edited in the BMG studio. The music was provided by Kevin MacLeod. Find more episodes of The Adrienne Ross Show at thebmgnetwork.com and major podcast platforms. Be sure to tune in regularly. You don't want to miss even one episode.